Hi, all. There were several things that I wanted to go into this evening, but I had some things happen today. I had to go pick my sister up from the hospital, and a lot of things going on with her. So I haven't had a lot of time to really sit down and dissect things. I was going to go into a couple of things, but the one thing I want to go into tonight is that the interview that Sammy had with All American Dream Chaser. Um, there's just a lot of red flags in there, and so I want to go into, and I'm not, you know, I don't have all this fancy stuff where I can put all these video clips and stuff like that because that's just not really what I do. Um, I just wanted to put my 2 cents worth into this, and tomorrow I'd like to get into something more about the vehicle, the windows that were down, and why they were down, and things like that. But tonight I just want to go over briefly. Well, I always say briefly, but I always end up being long-winded. But Sammy's interview that she had on there, and I'm gonna be referring to my notes a lot because it's like way too much to memorize. But the first thing that she says in the interview, she says, one of my really close friends. Um, and if you have kids, you know that teenagers, their whole life revolves around social media. Snapchat and Facebook and Instagram and whatever else is out there. There's so many things that I haven't kept up with. But you know that their whole lives revolve around this stuff. But yet, and Sammy says that Kylie is one of her close friends, but yet neither one is following the other on social media. That just doesn't make sense. If they're close friends, they're going to be following each other because it's like you can't go to the bathroom, on there anymore without somebody knowing about it or somebody posting about it. So for her to say that they were close friends, but yet they weren't following each other on social media, it just doesn't add up. Also, too, and I'll try to link the video, the interview, in the description so you can go look at it. Since I'm not actually posting clips of it, but just when you watch it, when he asks her if they were good friends, or when she makes a statement, that we're really close friends, she says, we became really close friends. You notice when she does that, while she's saying that, she's looking right at him and says, and then we became really close friends, and kind of looks off to the left, like, you know. Um, Generally, people, when they're lying, they'll look away or they'll move their eyes around, a lot of times. And you'll see that a lot in her interviews, that she's looking here and looking to the left and closing her eyes and stuff, trying to think of what to say instead of it just flowing out. If, because you notice there's a lot of places where she talks, she's very animated and that type of thing. And then, then she gets to a part where she's not so sure of. All of a sudden she stops and she stammers and that type of thing. But let me find where I am in my notes here. I apologize, but it's been a long day. I'm just trying to get something out here. But when he asked her, he says, you were at the party with her, you can tell, from her reaction to that question that she's trying to come up with a narrative on the fly. At least that's how it comes across to me. Because generally if you know the information, you are forthcoming with it, and it just flows. You don't have to think about it. But she's looking all around and stumbling on her words, and to me it's obvious deception. And if I was in an interview room interviewing somebody, and they're just talking on, yeah, blah, 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 and then all of a sudden I ask them another question, all of a sudden they're like, I don't remember. I don't. No, no, no. If she was sober enough to remember the things that were going on up until the time that Kylie supposedly disappeared, she'd know what was going on then too. You know, if she was that wasted, she wouldn't have been able to remember any of it. But you know, she deflects a lot. He asks her a question, and there's a couple of times where she's like, well, I can't. But then the interviewer lets her off the hook. He doesn't press her, and she doesn't bother to continue answering the question either. She just deflects it away. There's 2 or 3 times I noticed during that interview that she deflected it, and he let her get away with doing it. Now that's something, as an interrogator, I would never do. I mean, in fact, anytime anybody tries to deflect something away, I would double down on it, you know, and nail them on it, because you know there's something wrong with that picture. Now she states that Mags, who supposedly Kylie took there drove to the party with her, she said that she left after 10 minutes. But later in a TV interview, Mags goes into great detail about, yeah, these guys showed up and they had all these drugs and this and, you know, that, and goes into all these details about the party. And it's like, okay, how can that be if you left after being there for 10 minutes? There's no way that you would know that stuff. Now, where did she get that information? Well, it's the same things that Sammy was talking about. So there was a narrative, it seems to me, and I could be wrong, but it seems to me that there's a narrative supplied by Sammy that now everybody is kind of like in cahoots about. You know, whether it's intentional or not. I mean, there's no way to know. But it's just way too suspicious to me. And because there's no way that you could be stating facts about something when you were not there. So either Mags is lying about leaving after 10 minutes, or she's just, you know, parroting the story that Sammy supplied. Couple. Okay, so again, I apologize. Another thing too, another contradiction, something that I can't figure out. During one interview, when they were talking about it was one of the TV interviews, where I think it was Mags and Sammy they were interviewing, and they were asking them about these older guys showing up with drugs and that type of thing. And Sammy says, "Oh yeah, you know, it's there, and it was really scary." Well, if it was scary, then why did you decide that you told Kylie, asked Kylie for a ride home because you wanted to stay longer? Why would you want to stay longer if it's so scary? See, that just is not. That makes absolutely no sense whatsoever. It does not compute. And then she says of her and Kylie, "We were seen together all around the party." Why would you say it like that? To me, that's like putting up kind of an alibi or a defensive type statement without needing to. Why would you use that wordage? We were seen around the party instead of we were together at the party, or something which would be like the normal thing that you'd think somebody would say. And notice again her eyes going upward when they asked her what they were doing. She said, "Oh, we were going down the ring, taking shots," and da da da. And she's like, while she's saying that, she's, which is indicative of somebody concocting a story on the fly, and thinking, okay, yeah, I'll say this, instead of just, because you notice her difference in her demeanor. They'll ask her a question that she's very comfortable with, that she's already rehearsed in her head, and she's like, yeah, and then when he asks her something that throws her for a little bit of a loop, or she's not sure, she hasn't previously rehearsed in her head, doesn't know the answer to, then she's all, and that's just, to me that just reeks of deception. And then she says, when she says we would go back to her car to get more alcohol, she's looking at the camera when she says this. We would go back to her vehicle to get more alcohol. And then she has to come up with something that happened after that, and you notice that she's looking at the camera when she says, and we went back to the car to get more alcohol, and then we, and again she's looking off, and obviously, is trying to come up with something. Then she continues to move her eyes around and fumble, and then and again another one of her deflections, where she says, "Oh, well, it's just hard to remember." And again, he lets her off the hook. I just don't understand why some parts are so easy to remember and other parts aren't when they occurred in the same time frame. Now, if it was something that happened hours later or something like that, or something that was a long time ago that was hard to remember, I can see, but it just doesn't add up. And then she says, she asked Kylie for a ride, then says, she asked her for a ride, and then says she left to go back to the party to find another ride. Then she later says, well, the reason I went to find another ride is because Kylie was too inebriated. Well, then why did you ask her for a ride? Because the time frame doesn't make sense. She says she asks her for a ride and then goes back to the party and asks somebody else for a ride. But she doesn't mention going back to Kylie's vehicle and seeing her too intoxicated. It just doesn't add up. But anyway, there's some other things I could go into, but it's just the whole interview was just, and I don't even know, probably there's so many other people that have dissected it who probably did a lot better job than me. But just from my experience of interrogating people, this would be one major red flag. I mean, the whole interview is a big red flag. Now, I don't know if she's involved in it. I haven't really come to a conclusion on that. I don't know if she's involved in her disappearance, but there's got to be a reason that she is covering things up, and that she's coming up with the narrative that she's been coming up with. So, anyway, I'm out here outside and I'm getting eaten up by mosquitoes. They're starting to land on me and stuff. So I think that's my cue to stop. Tomorrow I'm going to talk more about the vehicle, which I meant to do today, but it's just not working out. So anyway, hopefully this will be of some help to somebody. Hope I didn't bore you to death. But we'll get into some more meaty stuff tomorrow, hopefully. All right, take care.